Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 12th, 2023 meeting of the Franklin Historic Zoning Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. And for the commissioners, I'd like to entertain a motion now to approve the May 8th minutes as distributed. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Scott. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, announcements, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next Monday, June 19th, there'll be a special DRC meeting at 3 o'clock that day to cover the new City Hall architecture, followed by a regular DRC meeting at 4 o'clock next Monday. And one other announcement, there are some changes to state law coming related to public comment periods. This body already meets the general intent of the state law, but you'll just notice some subtle wording differences on agendas going into the future. So just wanted to make sure you are aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, are there any items, non-agenda items that need to be put on the agenda? This step is by design reserved for emergency instances. Non-agenda items shall be considered only by the unanimous approval of all historic zoning members. Are there any items for the, all right?
Well, Mr. Chair, the house that I think it's already been given a stop work order.
Yes.
But just for a matter of our meeting, to say that the house on 3rd Avenue, I can't remember the number, has had the roof and the whole back of the house removed, and there's a front window and 2 sides left standing.
Okay, that's on the agenda for the next design review meeting,
Okay.
Monday. All right, now this is for citizens' comments, and now this will be for items on the agenda or not on the agenda, but would request that any citizen comments for items that are on our agenda be held until the time that that item is called. So are there any other items that are citizen comments for items not on the agenda? All right. Hearing none, then we'll take item 1, consideration of alterations, windows at 317 Main Street. Staff? Emily?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property at 317 Main Street is proposing to replace 5 windows at their property. The building is a circa 1890 building, and it was renovated in the 1980s. The guidelines recommend for the replacement of non-historic windows to use a material and window type that is similar to those seen historically in the neighborhood. Composite materials that have the appearance of wood are appropriate for windows, stops, jambs, and trim. As proposed in the application, the intent is to replace the windows circled in the attached photos with pine windows painted in an almond color so that the new windows match the existing windows on each facade. And the submittal provides photos of the windows showing the exterior that are from different vantage points than the interior, and therefore there is an inaccuracy as to which windows are proposed to be replaced. As these windows were replaced in circa 1980, the replacement of any of these windows would meet the intent of the guidelines as long as they match the remaining windows on the building in dimensions, window light, pattern, and color. Staff recommends approval of the replacement of 5 windows at 317 Main Street with the following conditions. The application must meet all of the requirements of the City of Franklin prior to the issuance of a building permit, and any additional changes to the approved plans must be returned to the Preservation Planner or the Historic Zoning Commission for review and approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come? Just introduce yourself and make any comments you want about the application.
Yeah, my name's Sean Mal. I'm with Pella Windows and Doors, and I was asked by the general contractor doing some work at this offices to do window replacement. My intent is what the owner wants, to make the replacement windows look as similar as possible to the existing windows, We're not doing all the windows, so we're really trying to make it look like we were never there, essentially. So in terms of an impact to the visuals of the building, I think it will be really minimal. And I have aluminum clad wood windows going into which are pretty much identical to the existing windows that were put in the 80s.
Okay, are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion from the commissioners.
I'll make a motion to approve the replacement of the 5 windows at 317 Main Street with staff conditions.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Questions, comments?
Within the application, it showed that there were pine replacement windows. So are they pine or are they,
It is a
Wood.
solid wood window that is clad on the exterior with aluminum.
And that's described on the spec sheet, I think we've got in this application.
And that doesn't meet the intent of the guidelines.
no, they have to be the wood or composite material. So they cannot include any like aluminum material for it to be approved with staff conditions. It has to be the pine or composite.
Yeah, and it looks like on the spec, they've highlighted the almond color on the extruded aluminum clad piece or section.
Given that when we reviewed the item, we read it as pine, and so the staff recommendation for anything other than wood or composite wood emulating wood would be a negative recommendation from staff.
Yeah, it's a little confusing because it does have pine highlighted as well.
So do we have to add a condition to that?
Well, wait a minute. Brian's thinking.
We need to defer to the next voting meeting. Give the applicant a chance to come up with a different window.
I mean, if that's your pleasure.
Another option would be to recommend the window replacement per staff recommendations and in compliance with the guidelines, and just let it be a staff approval.
I'm good with that.
I'll make that motion.
So you want to amend,
Amend the
Amend the
motion.
motion.
That the window replacement go to staff for review and approval and must be in compliance with the historic zoning guidelines.
Did you have questions about that, or, I mean, are you clear on what?
No, should I sit down? I mean, just my comment is that the existing windows being aluminum clad,
Yeah, sir, how do I want to say, that was approved before these guidelines in the 80s. So
Okay.
that is going to be something they're going to need to work through with staff. But
okay, staff approval. What? Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, okay.
I'll
All right, is there a
second
second? Brian's going to second. All right. All right, so the window design will be given to staff for approval in accordance with the design guidelines. Is that,
And I just have a quick question for staff. So were these windows installed prior to the guidelines going into effect? Is my understanding?
yes.
Yes. And so I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing as far as the like kind replacement, because these windows predate the guidelines. Would they be permitted to do that or no?
Any new window would be subject to the new guidelines at the time, unless it's a vested project or something like to that effect. But it is the commission's purview to adhere to the guidelines, or if there's some extra need, they're flexible guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I guess what I would say is these windows are getting to an age, because they were replacement windows that they may need replaced. So I think having them as they're replaced be the configuration so it doesn't look so odd, but comply with the guidelines. So over time, the whole building
Right.
will comply.
Any other comments? Ready to vote on the amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now we're back to the main motion. All in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Okay, our next item is construction at 725 West Main Street. Emily.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This proposal received a certificate of appropriateness at the October 10th, 2022 Historic Zoning Commission meeting. The scope of the project includes building a brick privacy wall on the neighboring property at 805 West Main Street due to a sewer easement on the property, preventing its construction on the Arlington property. When the proposal was initially approved, a condition of approval was that the brick needed to blend with the property on which it was situated, which is the Ligon property. Additionally, fences should be situated along the lines of a residence per the guidelines. Alterations to the approved COA document include changing the previously approved height of 7 feet, the color of the brick to match the Arlington building, utilization of a limestone cap at the top of the brick wall to match what is on the Arlington building, the iron gate with surrounding wooden post and gas lamps, an aluminum fence with brick columns, and aluminum gate at the rear property to tie the wall into the Arlington building. The proposed wall end will face West Main Street and will have an iron gate entry with gas lamps on wooden posts and surrounding iron fencing connecting to the Arlington building and the brick wall. The specifications for the gas lamps were not included within the application, and that guidelines recommend the utilization of fixtures that are common to the building's style and period of construction. The gate and wall will begin at 20 feet 6 inches from the front right corner of the building, which is keeping in line with the guidelines that state that rear yard fencing begins 20 feet from the plane of the residence primary facade. The height of the wall closest to West Main Street will begin at a minimum of 7 feet and increase to 7 feet 10 inches, then 7 feet 9 inches, then 8 feet 6 inches, then 9 feet 4 inches, and then 8 feet 11 inches with brick columns measuring 1 foot 8 inches in width and spaced 23 feet apart. The guidelines recommend that fences should not be higher than 7 feet on side or rear yards. Staff recommends denial of this proposal based on the following grounds. The guidelines recommend that fences should not be higher than 7 feet on side or rear yards. If the proposal is issued a certificate of appropriateness, then the conditions should be as follows. The lighting must return to preservation planning staff for approval, as the guidelines recommend the utilization of fixtures that are common to the building style and period of construction. The brick wall must be lowered to a height of 7 feet to meet the guidelines. The application must meet all the requirements of the City of Franklin prior to the issuance of a building permit, and any additional changes to the approved plans must be returned to the Preservation Planner or Historic Zoning Commission for review and approval. There's also a project consideration. The applicant shall be advised that the approval of the certificate of appropriateness for the retaining wall and gates does not constitute approval to construct the wall or install posts on top of the existing sewer main as shown. A separate building permit is required for the construction of the wall. As communicated previously, no approval to install posts or columns on top of the existing sanitary sewer main will be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come?
My name is Greg Pruitt, Davis Stokes Architects. I'm the Shell architect for the Shell building that's working on this project.
Okay, would you just comment on the application?
Yeah, we plan on keeping the wall at 7 feet. Portions of the site were running up and then stepping down, and we were trying to use the CMU 8-inch increment heights to, make it, one, give a little bit variation to the wall, but just make it work within coursing dimensions. But we can have a contractor maintain 7 feet. That's fine.
Okay, anything else?
We are asking to have the brick on the wall match the Arlington instead of the Liggins property. The third brick that nobody's really liking, neither Matt Liggins nor any of the owners in the Arlington are liking the third brick that was selected. And I say third because we can't find a brick that matches, his house. So everybody feels like it should match the Arlington. It's not on the Liggins property, it's splitting ours and the Liggins, so there's, we worked out an easement there where we can split the property line and still, it's not a septic issue, so. We have the limestone cap, and then we're gonna submit the lamps to Emily, and I think that's about it.
Okay. Are there any citizens which comment on the application?
Matt Ligon, 110 Winslow Road. I'm also the trustee of 805 West Main Street, the adjoining property, and signed the easement agreement. So, and I was here for the last meeting when it came through in October. It's my personal feeling and opinion now that the wall is on both properties and it ties back to the Arlington, that I think the general public that drives down the street does not know where the property line is. And it makes a lot more sense for that wall to go with the Arlington and looks like it's part of the Arlington. And the brick issue that Greg's already mentioned, it makes it easier, but I don't think anybody will know. And we certainly don't want one side of the wall to be one brick, one side of the wall to be another brick, I don't think. So,
That'd be a trick.
Yeah, all that, we are in favor of it. We think it will help and help from our side, the scaling of the building compared to our property, with ours being a one-story. So hope you will vote in favor of it with the brick. And I think the limestone, the capping it will make it look much better as well, make it stand up the test of time as well. So, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion from the commission.
I motion to approve with comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mary.
I think I'll agree with the applicant and Mr. Ligon. This wall is going to be attached to the Arlington, correct?
Yes.
So it's going to look like it's not part of the Ligon's house.
Yeah, we have the
part of
wrought
your
iron fence
house.
running to it. I mean, it looks like it goes with the Arlington property.
So I'm thinking if it's splitting the line, there's a 50-50 chance in which house you would do it. But I think I would agree that if it's going to be attached to the Arlington, that it should look like part of the Arlington and not part of the Ligon's house.
All right. Any other comments, commissioners?
Only that the recommendation that it be lowered to a height of 7 feet
Right,
is something
and I
that's
think that's what the
included.
applicant just said. that
Exactly.
They would
Yeah.
do that, and that's in the conditions
Okay.
as well. But we're going against the staff recommendation.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
But
just
it's-
want to make sure that's specified.
Yeah, in the condition. And I think you're going against the staff recommendation because the applicant has said they would lower it to 7 feet, consistent. The whole. line.
With the finish to match the Arlington,
Right.
as it will be attached to.
Yeah, I guess I just had one question. I know we spent a lot of time on the brick when we were here, when this was before us last time, and the whole point was this was always going to be tied to the Arlington project, but the operative piece under the guidelines was that the wall was sitting on the Ligon property. Has the location of the wall changed since we looked at this in October? Because I know now we're hearing it's split between the two properties, but is it in the same location it was in before? Do you all know? Does anybody know?
Previously, it was on the Liggins property.
Okay. We'll let Matt come back and talk about that.
It was 3 feet, so it was located all of on our property. And that was the point that
Yeah.
I don't remember, Mary, I thought brought up, but I can't remember, because it was all located on our property at that time.
Right.
And we hadn't worked that out, but that was the proposal, that it was gonna, that was why it was mentioned about the brick. Now that was, half and half.
So when you say
More.
how much has it moved over?
So the
close to Arlington?
easement
1
is.
foot 10 inches?
1 foot, 1 foot 10 inches, but the wall doesn't take up all of that because you've got the footer that takes up part of that space. So it's
So is the above
it's
ground?
basically on the line. The center of the wall is on the line, as I understand it.
Okay. All right.
So it's half and half. Nobody's going to see the footer, right? That's
Right,
all.
right.
And really, nobody's going to see that much of the wall once we landscape. If you looked at the landscape plan, you're going to see the post at the end, maybe. And then as you look down each side is landscape, so you'll see the top of the wall. But from our standpoint, on our side, most of that you will not see with the height of the landscaping that we're doing.
Right.
Any other comments?
The only other comment I would make is, I remember when we were looking at brick samples, I mean, what they have on the Arlington is, some of the colors are in the historic house as well. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. But the question I do have is to fencing. So if I understand staff's comment, where we see the wooden post with the lamps, do I understand that they cannot be in the sewer easement? Is that what's being said?
I believe that they cannot be on top of the sewer easement, like very far down into the ground.
But they can be in this location.
Yes, sir.
And the type fencing, I know it says an iron gate, but when you go to the end of the wall that shows it at the very end, it says aluminum. And is this kind of like a cast aluminum or like a aluminum tubing painted black? I mean, what type of,
I mean, we were thinking, it's such a small portion of it now too, but we were thinking it was just gonna be a standard aluminum tubing fence, black to match, spanning in between the brick columns.
so it really won't be like an iron, won't be like a cast iron?
No, it won't
fence?
be a cast iron fence. The front that faces the street, but the back end of the property was not gonna be. It's just gonna be
So-
aluminum.
So what is seen from West Main will be a cast iron?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just clarifying that.
Yep.
Any other comments? Ready?
Just to and the part that backs up to First Bank is going to be aluminum,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you really don't
I mean, it's
get,
300
yeah.
feet plus back. Any other comments? Ready to vote? All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. We're good. Thank you. Next item, consideration of alterations fencing at 312 Third Avenue South. Linda Childs, applicant. Joey, this is you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The applicant is requesting to install new front yard fencing as well as 4 pedestrian gates and 1 vehicular gate for the residence located at 312 Third Avenue South. That is the home in the up top left corner of the screen there. The proposed front yard fencing is wood picket style fencing measuring 3 feet in height. The vehicular gate is proposed to have mechanics to swing the gate open inwardly. The mechanics will be discreetly placed internal to the property. Chapter 7 of the Historic District Design Guidelines discuss recommendations of new front yard fencing within the local historic districts. The style, material, and layout of the proposed fencing and gates are all consistent with the guidelines. The proposed location of the fence takes into account 2 existing stone pillars in front of the home. I'll point them out on the screen right here. So the proposed location of the fencing takes those into account and will be located behind those stone pillars. So they're still visible from the public view. The guidelines do recommend to erect fences and walls in typical locations and along property lines. There is a diagonal portion that I'll highlight here that kind of cuts from along the driveway diagonally to the front corner of the home with a proposed gate there. That was just something that I noticed that would not have been necessarily done with those kind of diagonal angles, especially in the front yard. So overall, staff recommends approval with the following conditions: that diagonal section of fencing in the front yard is just adjusted to turn at a 90-degree angle, and that any mechanical components are concealed from public view and located behind the fencing in accordance with the guidelines, and that application meet all requirements of the city of Franklin prior to issuance of a zoning or building permit, and that any changes be returned to preservation or planning staff for review and approval, or potentially the Historic Zoning Commission. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Childs, and I'm with Holly Consults, and our customers have asked us to put up a picket fence. And we are fine to change the angle to a right angle. We were trying to give them a little more room for the turnaround, but they are fine to change that angle, if that's important.
Okay. Are there any citizens which comment on this application? Then need a motion from the commission.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with conditions.
Second.
Comments?
I would like to make a comment because, for years I've looked at pictures of historic homes when in their historic condition, made near the 1900s, of houses that have picket fences. And I will say that in photo number 2, that's probably one of the closest styles to what you would see in a historic property. And actually, there is a picture of this home that shows that a fence about 1900 that has a very similar style. The two things I wanted to bring up, though, so the photograph that we see, photo number 1, those 2 stone columns, to keep them is fine, I'm not saying anything about that, but it's not historic. Those have been put up since they renovated the house. Those were steps that were part of the rear. So I'm saying if the homeowner wanted to put the fence closer, that they're not historic.
Okay.
The other thing is that when you see, and I think the applicant's asking to put a curb, like we're seeing in photo number 2.
Yes.
So that's atypical. That would not be typical of a picket fence. It's more like what you would see with a cast iron fence. We see it at the courthouse. You see it at other places with cast iron. Usually you have that long horizontal board that's at the bottom known as a skirt board, and it would take that place where the curb is. But I will say that a curb like that would probably make the fence last longer. You wouldn't have the wood closest to the ground for rot. But it would be more keeping not to have that curb historically and just have that skirt board. It would be wider than what you're showing in this picture.
They've asked for it for additional security measures. So they specifically did ask for that.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Well, I would say with what Brian said, I would be a fan of saying that we would also approve it with the stone piers removed, because I just think it would make it have a much more traditional look to it of the period.
I don't think they would oppose
So
that.
I will offer that as an amendment, that we would approve it with the stone. We would also approve it with the stone post removed.
With the stone post removed?
Yes, sir.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
And just for clarification, is that at the homeowner's discretion as to whether they want to remove it or not?
I think so.
Oh, so the amendment is to remove the stone post at the homeowner's discretion.
It's an option, yes.
Is there a second to Mary's amendment?
Brian seconded.
Thank you. Any other comments on the amendment? Okay, you ready to vote on the amendment? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we're back to the main motion. Any other comments on it?
Did
The only
staff,
question that I've got is, I thought in our guidelines that fences like this were to start 20 feet back from the front facade of the house. And I'm seeing 15 feet in this drawing. Is that, am I missing something?
I'm not sure.
So the height is kind of the regulating factor of 3 feet in height, and that was considered front yard fencing. Anything higher than 3 feet would be considered rear yard fencing, and that would have to start 20 feet back from
Okay,
the
so it's
front
just with
elevation.
rear yard fencing?
Yes, just for rear yard fencing.
Okay,
So
all right.
the height and the style is compatible with the guidelines.
Okay, everybody good with that?
And the height in this instance is
Is 3
from
feet.
grade
Great,
with the curb and then the fence.
Okay.
okay.
And to Mr. Laster's point regarding the curb, did staff have any observations about that as it relates to the guidelines, the curb portion?
That did not come up in my review, so I did not give that any consideration.
So do we need another amendment on that, that it's,
My comment was going to be that I think it can be done in such a way that it's not going to be extremely visible. And if it's for a security measure that, as you pointed out, that's understandable.
okay. Any other comments? Then we're ready to vote then on the motion as main motion as amended. All in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, consideration of an addition principal at 1303 Adams Street, Hannah Terry applicant. Joey?
Thank you. The applicant has submitted an application for a proposed rear addition to the principal structure for the residence located at 1303 Adams Street. The condition includes an attached garage located behind and to the left of the principal structure. The applicant is also proposing a new pull-through driveway that is located in the front yard of the property. Chapter 2 of the design guidelines provides recommendations for additions to historic residential buildings. Pull up those elevations now. The addition is, all the additions and the attached garage are all located behind the main structure or the main form of the home. So overall, the design, placement, materials, and fenestration of the proposed addition are in keeping with the guidelines. However, side elevations of the addition were not provided with the application. So a full review of the structure cannot be completed without this additional information. In terms of the addition, or size of the addition, the applicant has indicated that the historic footprint, if you noticed, they referred to it as original footprint, but historic footprint is more accurate because there were some additions and changes made that are 50 years older that do apply to that historic footprint that we look at. But they mark that the historic footprint measures 2,167 square feet and that the addition with the covered deck would be 73% of that historic footprint, and without the covered deck would be 59% of the historic footprint. The guidelines recommend that the building footprint of an addition should not exceed 50% of the historic building footprint for the historic proportions, those that are at least 50 years of age. So both of those options exceed the recommended maximum square footage per the guidelines. The applicant has also requested to install a new pull-through driveway somewhere. There it is. At the front of the home, the guidelines specifically recommend against circular driveways located in the front yard as they are not traditionally found within the historic districts, so the request does not meet the guidelines. Staff recommends denial of the proposed rear addition and alterations to the driveway based on the building footprint of an addition should not exceed 50% of the building footprint of the historic proportions of the building. The guidelines recommend against circular driveways located in the front yard and are not traditionally found within historic districts, and that additional information is needed related to the proposed site elevations for a full review. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come?
Hannah's technically the applicant. Am I able to present, or does she need to present?
Whichever one.
Is that okay? Great, perfect. Do you all need hard copies?
I don't think, we've got it all
Digital?
on our
I'd like
service
to.
program.
I would
Like-
take one.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Well, just pass them out then. You've got them.
Yeah, yeah.
The tree is gone.
Right. Yeah, I think, who else?
I'll take one. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah,
Yeah, why not, yeah.
I'm good, thanks.
Right. Thanks, y'all.
If you'd just introduce yourself too.
Sure. Yeah, my name is David Swift. I am, as of tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, the new owner at 1303 Adams Street. We worked on this with Hannah Terry, our architect. So we're excited to be in downtown Franklin and take a look at this with you all. We are, yeah, just in general, that was kind of the rundown on everything. Obviously, we're trying to a rear left addition. We know we kind of got maybe two particular issues with guidelines kind of going in. One is the 50% piece of the footprint, and our other one is the driveway up front. Are kind of the main question marks, I believe. I think maybe we also left a document out, but I'm not sure if that disqualifies us or not, but we'll see. So page 1 is obviously what's existing. Page 2, what you all are seeing here, this is really, yeah, page 1 is what's existing. And then page 2 is really more of an inspo photo. There's a couple of, like, there's a wall dormer on here. We know that's not applicable. Stuff like that is not particularly the case, just really just inspo photos. It's a little Pinterest board for you there. And then, yeah, this view right here, you can see the grayscale on the top photo is what is existing. The proposed is the left-hand side that is black scale. That's really what you'll see from the road. Everything else is in the rear. Yeah, and then there's the rear piece on the bottom of that is black as well. If we go one more page, we'll see the original footprint here, 2167. There's a little bit of a question mark about what is the additions piece on this, which is, we've included that piece as well. But I guess there was some work done throughout the years. Spoke with the current owner. This is what we think is the original footprint, the historic footprint. You also see there on the right-hand side grayed out. It was a bathroom, closet, and there's a deck spacing there as well. And then the page after that is what we're really, well, I guess, yeah, the page after that shows the addition there. Yeah, that page right there shows what we're really proposing. You can see there's two main pieces where it's sort of filling in sort of what's existing there, kind of getting some more functional space in the octagonal bathroom there, bottom right. And then top middle is kind of filling that space in that is there. And then the real meat of it is that, obviously that section there on the left. One piece that's not shown in these little red areas is you'll see that deck area between the large, yeah, that right there. That is a piece that's in question here, and we've got different footprint ratio or percentages for both of those. Obviously, we would prefer to cover that deck space. I know that's kind of what qualifies it as part of the new footprint, but that's what we're proposing. Next page is just overall piece to that. If we get to the second page of the review documents here, yeah, the second page, not that one, but the next one. You'll see, yeah, down here on the bottom, we do know there was some work done down here in the like 90s, early 90s. We've got pool, utility shed. Everything else just says wood deck, but we know that there was a piece of that new renovation with the closet and all of that was included in that, even though it's not really documented for whatever reason. But that was the stuff those were the items that were done in the 1990s, though, we think. We don't know the exact date, but in the 90s, not historic at least. And then we are proposing the roundabout. We've got some supporting photos here. If we go down a couple of pages that show some existing kind of horseshoe driveways here in the historic districts around town. That was really a specific request from Ms. Swift for security reasons pulling out of the driveway. It is a little bit of a different situation. It's got it's not a creek, but it's like a drainage that comes out from the streets right there. And so there's some kind of blockage coming from the downtown Franklin side of that. it's just a little bit obscured, stuff like that. So that's a piece of the reason we're kind of proposing the horseshoe turnaround as well. But I believe that's everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any citizens wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, let's do this in two pieces. One, the driveway, and two, the house, or let's do the house first.
Can I ask just a point of order?
Yeah.
Do we have an owner affidavit on this from the current owner?
Yes, we
It's not in
do.
the packet, so I
Yes.
just want to make
Yeah.
sure we were
You
good.
you do have?
But yes, we do have
Okay,
it on
since
record.
ownership had
Yes.
transferred, okay.
Yes.
Good.
Good question. So is there a motion? Let's do the house first.
As to the house, I'll make a motion to defer until the next design review committee meeting.
Voting meeting. Voting meeting.
Voting meeting, yeah.
July.
That's right,
July,
yeah.
what,
Defer till the July meeting,
let's see.
which
It'll
would be,
Wait a minute, and I'll tell you what the date is.
July the 10th.
Thank you. And you got any other comments on that?
yes. The design review committee meeting, it gives us a really great opportunity to look at the size of what you're proposing and how it fits with the guidelines or doesn't fit with the guidelines, and how we might be able to sort of collaborate in order to come up with some solutions, because obviously the percentage marks are not aligning with the guidelines. So, and as far as I'm concerned, I think we need a little more clarity on what is the historic portion and which is not.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second? Mary?
I will second that and say that one thing I'd be wanting to discuss is the garage, because we work hard to not have garages look attached.
And also, we need some more drawings that were not in the packet on the side elevations, right?
Yes, side elevations are not included, so those would be required for their submittal.
This is, if I'm right, a large lot.
It
So,
is.
yeah,
Yes.
so at design review, if you all could bring some pictures to show really how large that lot is.
Okay. Sure thing.
And it's big, I can talk. about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think that was a little bit of a piece of our
Yes,
a thought on, hey,
Right.
there may be a little bit of something there. I know 35% building footprint per lot is the requirement guideline. I think with the additions, we're at like 16%. So it's a almost an acre lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is helpful, maybe I didn't point it out, but there really is no, or am I able to give feedback? Is that?
That's okay.
Okay. I don't know how this.
That's fine.
Okay.
Wait
I was-
a minute, why don't you just save that for design review?
Okay, well, what I was going to say was I think this is really all the information we have on the historic.
Okay, but we're going to need
piece.
some side elevations.
Got it.
And we
Okay.
can talk about the lot size and all that at design review, because I do think that's important.
Can I say something? I see
Yeah.
architect.
Well, if you come up and introduce yourself, yeah.
Yep. Hi, Hannah Terry, architect. I do have the side elevations. I'm sorry, I did not include those in there. I'd forgotten.
Just
that
bring
was-
those in to design review.
Yes,
and-
okay, okay. And also, one thing that we went through with the last DRC meeting that we did a couple weeks ago, you all had asked us to reach out to find records of when these additions were made, so we could meet the 50% mark. These were the only records that we were able to find when we contacted people in the city of Franklin. So as far as how we should kind of navigate that, we would love more information from you all. Like we can make it 50%, right? But because we don't really, there's not concrete digitized information as far as what is historic and what is not and when was added at what point. We kind of don't really know where to go from there, I guess, or what that number could be in order to make it 50%. So we were hoping that,
And I think I can talk a little bit about it
Sure.
at design review, but I think we've got a motion now to defer, so to the next voting meeting, so we need to deal with that, and then we can probably get into that a little deeper.
I just have one comment on the drive. So the.
Well, wait a minute, let's hold that piece. That's going to be a separate motion.
Okay, all right.
So are there any other comments on the motion to defer? Hearing none, all in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we're on the driveway. Is there a motion on that one?
Move to deny, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mary. All right, discussion?
The discussion I have, so the photographs, and thank you for the photographs that were shown. One of them was a house on Murfreesboro Road.
Sure.
And that house is not inside the historic zoning overlay. And I believe it was built before Envision Franklin. So there, there are things that they were able to do that can't be done in historic zoning overlay. And the other houses that are shown appear to be that was probably done before the historic zoning overlay was put into effect. And that's probably how those things got done. And I would just want to, when you see things like that in town, you wonder why.
Sure.
Why can't I do it?
Sure.
And I just kind of wanted to bring that out.
Yeah, I
Were
can
the-
assure
were
you
the other
Ron
two-
Lewisburg was before.
Yeah, I know that the one on Lewisburg was before
Sure.
there was ever design review, and that does make it confusing
It does,
yeah.
for the person coming onto the scene,
Sure.
wanting to do things and not understanding.
Got it.
Well, in some ways, that's evidence that maybe a circular drive could be appropriate because it is predating the regulations. And if that's an example of if we had a lot of those in town, that'd be a different story. I think it'd be consistent, but I'm with you. I see, the Jenkins house there on Franklin Road and then the one on Lewisburg. And then Matt, that's a real compliment to Matt and Kara because they built that house within, I think, the last 10 years on Murfreesboro Road. So, yeah. So.
That's correct. All right, any other discussion on the motion to deny the driveway? All right, ready to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll
And Mr. Chair,
look forward. Yeah,
just to clarify, I was able to find on a Sanborn map what I think is this particular home during my review of this application that I will share with the applicant. I'll follow up with him tomorrow.
Excellent. I was in there one time when Nancy Griffin had it, and I kind of remember the side, but your information will be more accurate, I'm sure. All right, thank you. We'll see you
Thank you.
next Monday. Okay, next item, consideration new construction, 1835 William Campbell Court in Magnolia Hall subdivision, Lot 2, Matt Smith, applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The development plan for Magnolia Hall was approved on December 14th of 2021, prior to the adoption of the current design guidelines. Therefore, this proposal will be reviewed under the guidelines in effect at the time of the development plan was approved. The guidelines recommend that new construction is designed to be compatible with in massing, height, proportions, scale, and architectural features of adjacent buildings, and that new construction complement rather than detract from the character of the historic district. The proposal for this lot includes the construction of a 1.5-story residence with Victorian architectural style features. The front elevation features a 2/3 porch with a prominent turret feature on the left side. The entry doors and all first floor windows in the main floor of the home feature transom windows. The front elevation also features ornate columns on the porch and a decorative bracket in the front gable. There is a dormer on the upper floor of the front elevation that is not set back 1 foot from the roof eave line, so it would be considered a wall dormer for our purposes. The setback of the front yards was approved to be 10 to 20 feet, while the side and rear yards are to be 5 feet based on the development plan. These numbers were not included in this proposal, but do have to follow those standards set by the development plan. The guidelines recommend that the height of infill buildings on newly created streets should be compatible with the building height on the nearest block face within the established historic district. New construction should be compatible with the massing height, proportion, scale, size, and features of adjacent historic buildings. Further, the zoning ordinance states that new buildings within view of the historic building shall be similar in scale and architectural character within the historic building. However, the historic building shall not be emulated to such an extent that it loses its prominence. Rather than attempting to mirror the scale of the historic building, new buildings shall be subordinate in their perceived scale of the historic building. There is a discrepancy with the overall height of the residence in this submittal. The proposed height of the Lot 3, as listed on the front elevation here, is 31 feet 2 inches. If I switch over to the streetscape, it is listed at 31 feet 8 inches with an adjusted grade of 5 feet compared to the Magnolia Hall, which has an overall height of 32 feet. So that would need to be clarified just to be sure we know the proposed height of the residence. The materials of the proposed new construction are listed as predominantly brick, cement fiber siding with a 5-inch exposure, metal standing seam roof along the turret feature, fiberglass composition roof, stone foundation, and a brick chimney. The colors and the materials were not included in this application. The guidelines recommend matching surrounding historic masonry in the width of the mortar joint, size, and scale of bricks, colors, and texture. As shown in the plan, different window light patterns are utilized in the proposal, which is not consistent on each facade. Specification of the windows were not included in this application. For architectural features, the guidelines recommend that the details should complement but not visually compete with the character of nearby historic structures. As suggested in previous DRC meetings, the proposal should omit the use of transoms as they are not typical of historic residential homes in the Boyd Mill Avenue Historic District. Per the zoning ordinance, infill development shall blend with nearby buildings through the use of similar size and pattern architectural features such as windows, doors, awnings, arcades, pilasters, cornices, wall offsets, primary facade materials, and other building articulations of nearby buildings. The guidelines recommend that infill principal buildings should not exceed the height and width ratios for windows and doors of adjacent buildings by more than 10%. This information was not included with this submittal. Dormers shall be set back a minimum of 1 foot from the exterior wall of a front or side elevation. The proposed wall dormer does not meet this requirement. So with that in mind, staff recommends denial of this application based on the following grounds: that the conflicting heights of 31 feet 2 inches versus 31 feet 8 inches. The guidelines recommend that architectural details should complement but not visually compete with the character of nearby historic structures, and that the recommended infill principal buildings should not exceed the height and width ratios for windows and doors of adjacent buildings by more than 10%. And new chimneys should be compatible in size, height, and massing with existing chimneys on nearby houses. It is suggested that the proposal should come to the upcoming design review committee for further discussion. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Would the applicant please come?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Hathaway, 906 Studio Architects. Thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak on this project. As you know, we've been a part of this for almost 6 months, and appreciate all the feedback you've given us. I'd love to go through a list of some of the changes we made along the way to listen to what you guys have proposed during the DRC meeting, but I want to first talk a little bit about massing and how each of these 4 projects that we're doing relate to the massing. If you consider the Magnolia Hall home, the main home, I know you guys have all seen it, and beautiful home, proportionally very large. So if I can get my numbers out here. So Magnolia Hall itself, if you look at just the main house with the guest house next to it, it's about 110 feet wide. If you look at just the 2-story box of the house, it's about 52 feet wide. The depth of that house is 61 feet 6 inches. So when I look at those numbers, each of our homes are right around the 50-foot wide mark. The other unique thing about Magnolia Hall is that it's a two-story building. It's all brick. It's a solid box. There's very little articulation. There's a little bit at the front, but the main box that's 2 stories is mostly a box. It's not a lot of articulation to it. In the homes that we've created on all these, get my puberty back, on all these lots, have a lot of articulation to the forms, and you see that in the 3D views that we provided. So we believe from a massing perspective that we're consistent with and lesser than the Magnolia Hall home. I'd also like to pull, and I think this is in your packet, I'd like to pull a document that describes the relationship of this home, Magnolia, to the lots that we're proposing tonight. So Lot 2, the first lot, is over 370 feet away from Magnolia Hall. Lot 3 is over 295 feet away from Magnolia Hall. Lot 4 is 225 feet away from Magnolia Hall, and Lot 5 is 160 feet away from Magnolia Hall. So while there is an adjacency consideration, we are still a long way away from Magnolia Hall. So let me quickly go through the list. First of all, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, we have made a couple of tweaks to the elevations that we'd love to share tonight. They're not major changes, it's just tweaks that we've had.
Was that in this additional packet that was on our desk, or is this something else?
Is that what you just passed down?
No, I didn't pass anything out yet. I'm sorry.
No.
Speaking of turn.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Okay, I appreciate the consideration. Pass that out.
So this information, we just need to pitch all this? This was all for, or is it just this house?
It's just this house, and it's just the front elevation.
Okay,
So don't
just
pitch-
the front elevation.
Don't pitch the whole package, please.
It's pretty full, Mike, it's Lot 2.
Yeah, don't throw the whole thing away. So again, as we were looking through the comments from staff, and we always appreciate staff's feedback, because, their job is to look at the guidelines and consider how the guidelines reflect the projects that we're proposing. So, and I know we've had a conversation about this in the past, and I just want to relate my opinion relative to the height. Again, when you look at Magnolia Hall, it's a 2-story box. And I don't say 2-story box in a deferential way. It's a beautiful home. It's a 2-story box with a low slope roof on top of that. And then the cupola has mass to it. And I believe it has enough mass to it that it reads, it's part of the height consideration when you're looking at this building, Magnolia Hall versus ours. So when that roughly 10 by 10 occupiable box that's on top of the house puts the height about 43 feet. So each of our homes is roughly 32 plus or minus feet. Now, I will give staff credit that we did have a difference in our dimension from the elevation to the streetscape perspective, and that was just a grammatical error, numerical error on our part, so I apologize for that. But we are roughly 32 feet in height. Now that height, when you look at our elevations, that height is not what you're perceiving from the front of the house. That's when you look at, again, perspective, look at the roof going away from you from the front elevation to that back most high roof that's back behind the main mass of the house. That's at 32 feet. So that's why I think if you're looking at our new homes from that perspective, and having us measure the most high spot on the house, I would ask you to consider the same thing from Magnolia Hall. What is the most high spot on that house? If it was just a spire or some small little piece, then I would understand considering the stop of the height consideration for Magnolia Hall at that fence structure at the top. But again, I believe it is a 10-foot by 10-foot cupola on the top that's one you can actually occupy and walk in, that ought to be part of the consideration of the height. There was a comment made by staff about the transom windows, that you don't see that in the adjacent historic district, and that's true. Most of the adjacent historic district is, 1930s and 40s. So when we look at the overall historic nature of downtown Franklin, there are several that we found that have transom windows. It's not necessarily a common thing, but there are houses that have transom windows. So we believe if you look at the bigger picture of our community, and we're a quaint hallmark town, and so I believe you should look at it in a bigger, broader sense. There was discussion about the columns being ornate. We have, through several iterations, simplified our columns. And if you look at Lot 2, the columns themselves are fairly simple. They're sitting on a detailed, trimmed box, and then a bracket that they have at the top that supports the porch itself. So it's really, the columns are, in our mind, are fairly simple columns sitting on a elevated box. The dormer, I don't disagree. I think when we drew it the first time, we did have it past that 1 foot line. We have now, in this elevation that you have right now, the updated one, we've moved that back to where it is 1 foot behind the wall, so would no longer be a wall dormer. The building setbacks, we did have that on the site plan, and it was probably easily looked over. The site plan, the site plan we provided shows a 50-foot setback at the front, roughly 7 feet on one side, and then I think it was 17 feet on the other side. So we're definitely not right on the street. We've given a whole lot more room, and that's part of that 300 feet of distance from Magnolia Hall to the house. There was a comment about the materials being predominantly brick, and that may have been just a typo. We are mostly siding on this house, and we do have a brick base or a stone base at the bottom, but we're not predominantly brick on that elevation. The chimneys are noted as larger than what you see at Magnolia Hall, and part of that's driven by the building codes. We have to have those, by local building codes, they have to be 2 feet above any obstruction within 10 feet of the fireplace of the chimney. So that's driving the height on those chimneys. In terms of the 10% window size, we believe that we designed these proportionally, vertical in scale and proportion. So while they may not be exactly the size of Magnolia Hall, Magnolia Halls are 3 foot by 8 feet on the ground floor, and I think 3 foot by 7 feet on the top floor. Those are large windows meant for a larger facade. So we have tried to size those consistent with the size of this, thank you, size of this facade. Through several iterations, we have tried to simplify the building in terms of its detail. It's a fine line between being overly simplified, because we want it to communicate well with Magnolia Hall. In no way do we ever want it to overrun Magnolia Hall, so we've done our best to try to simplify that. Staff mentioned that we didn't submit colors. I know that in my past life on the commission, we didn't have jurisdiction over colors, so if we need to provide colors, we can sure do that, but we didn't understand that to be a requirement. And then lastly, we have, in response to DRC, there are several things that we've done. We've reduced the roof slope from a 1412 to a 1212. We have redesigned the floor plan to break that side elevation facing Boyd Mill so that there's actually a break in that facade. And we rotated the garage in order to get that break. And then again, we've simplified the ornamentation on the outside. So, sorry for the long dissertation, but I wanted to give you a sense about where we are and where we've come from, and our desire to take the next steps and we've appreciated your comments, and Josh, I know you've asked for some numbers, and we've included those in this report as well, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion from the commission. Realizing there's a lot to unpack.
There is.
Mr. Chair, I think given that we've gotten additional information while we're sitting here and the staff has identified multiple pieces of information that we're missing in the application, I'd move to defer to the July 10 voting meeting. Although I do appreciate all the additional information that's been given.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Is there a motion to defer to July 10th meeting? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
My only comment would be to invite the applicant back to DRC.
Yes.
All right, I've got that ability.
And just because I got lost in the discussion for a second, could the applicant, what is the height of these houses compared to the main form of Magnolia Hall?
Let's discuss that at
Okay, I just
design
wanted to
review
be
if they
able to
want.
think about it. Okay.
Yeah. All right, any of, ready to vote? We did
we've
vote on
done.
deferral,
Yeah.
okay. We're on to the next one.
Did we vote on it?
Mr. Chair, the agenda goes out to the paper tomorrow. Can you hear me? The
No.
agenda goes out to the paper tomorrow for the DRC next Monday. Would the applicant like to submit to the DRC, to take these plans to the DRC?
Yeah,
Just hold it for the next one. If it, okay, so they do want to. All right, we're ready for the next, I think that's 1830, lot 3. It's 1835 again is what's showing on this drawing. But I think it's 18,
Hey, can I say something quickly?
quickly, yeah.
I'm Bernie Butler. I think it makes better sense because each one of these four houses, the tweaks that you have in front of you are my tweaks. At the last DRC meeting, I was not there because I've been,
Your mama.
Your mother?
sorry. Anyway, I think it makes better sense to push those next three, if we could,
Okay.
and then I'll be there. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's take these, having heard that, let's take these in order, though. There, 1837 is the next one. So, why don't you just highlight?
The four for relating to Magnolia Hall really have kind of a lot of the same bullet points. For this one, I will say, in terms of, the biggest issue with this one was just the height discrepancy, because it was shown as 33 feet 4 inches on this elevation, and then on the streetscape, a height of 31 feet 9 inches. So that was kind of the main issue, the thing we wanted to address with this one, is to get that height clarified. Otherwise, this one, architecturally speaking, was more in keeping with the guidelines during my review, and with how it relates to other established character in the Boyd Mill Historic District. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, do you want to make any additional comments? Okay. Then let's have a motion from the commission.
Move to defer, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
Sorry, you can have it, Mary.
Any comments? All in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
aye.
All right, we're ready then for 1839 William Campbell Court. Joey, you want to hit the hot spots on that one?
This was actually Emily's review. so
Hey, Emily,
I'll throw it back to her.
I wasn't reading my script.
So, for the highlights, the materials generally met the guidelines. For the architectural features, we're just, the proposal should omit the use of transoms. Same thing with the height. And, with the windows on, here, let me cast, sorry. On the side facades, there are different window light patterns and here we go. Okay, so this one is the Lot 4. And so there are different window light patterns on the facade. And so we would just address those. And we also recommend denial of this application. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mike, did you have any comments on this
No
one?
other
All
comments,
right. Then we have a motion then.
Move to defer
Thanks,
to the
Scott.
July meeting.
Second.
Or DRC.
We'd want
Brian?
to be on DRC.
Yes, okay.
All right, any comments? All in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And last but not least, 1841 William Campbell. Emily? Just
So, same thing with this submittal. For the transoms, we note that they should be omitted. The chimney height should be reduced on this elevation along with the other side elevation. The top sash of the window utilizes a 3-window light pattern and then also a 2-window light pattern. So it should be consistent on each of the facades. And same thing with the height. And, yep, that's it.
okay. Any comments?
Okay.
All right, motion.
Move to defer to the July meeting.
Thanks, Scott. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Susan.
Mr. Chair, since transom lights have been brought up, just like to make one comment about that. Historically in Franklin, it is true. So the Roberts House, Fleming House on Third Avenue, you do see transom lights, but they're only on main architectural features. They're not all over the house. So that's something to consider when you come back.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that.
We better vote.
Oh, I thought we did. Oh, excuse me. All in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're good. Thank you. Any other items come up for the good of the order? Take a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Brian. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 We're dismissed.